Well, here we are with another not post-game because I'm filming this the day after, but another video discussing an Eagles game after the fact. And we are yet again talking about the same thing where the offense looks absolutely terrible and the defense looks great. In fact, the defense looks even better. I would say we're discussing the same things, but the defense is getting better game by game, and that's great. But this video isn't about that. This video is about the offense. And let me just preface this by saying I don't think I have ever rooted for an 8-2 team that is the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl and hated the team more than I do this team. And it's really not the players' fault. I mean, some of the players, it is their fault. It's the coach. And it's just, they make it way harder than it needs to be. And I'll get into that. You know, you have two groups of people after a game last night in which the offense looked absolutely terrible. Again, Jalen had 50% completion percentage, averaged about 4.8 yards per attempt. By all metrics, advanced and traditional, it was a terrible game. Until you look at the tape that comes out the next day, and that always angers me because on Monday when the tape comes out, you really see how stupid the fucking coaches are when you see some of these route concepts and things like that. And Jalen missed a few throws, but looking at the tape, he pretty much did everything that was asked of him. He threw the same accurate passes he always does on the same three stale route concepts that they always draw up. Whether it's a little RPO out to the flat to Goddard, oh, it's a 3rd and 6, let's run 3 of the same 6-yard hitch routes. AJ has lost a step. He can't create as much separation as he used to. It's an incompletion. There is absolutely no creativity. Now, what I was saying is that there's two groups of people. There's one group of people who are so stupid that they're saying, you're an idiot to complain. The Eagles are 8-2. They're winning. All Nick Sirianni does is win. They do this with the quarterback too, granted. And it's stupid when they do it that then. It's even dumber when they do it with the coach, who contributes less to winning, in my opinion, and I'll get to that. They say, oh, they're winning. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. These are the people that drive home forgetting to put their seatbelt on. And they think, oh, it's okay. I mean, I didn't get into a crash. It doesn't matter. These are the people that what's it called? Object permanence, why children fall for peekaboo. They can't see the forest with the trees. They don't realize that something's there, even though they can't see it or something. Basically what I'm saying is these people are very stupid. These same people that sit here and think, this is sustainable for an offense to be this bad. The most highly paid, skilled position players in the entire NFL. The offense, the Eagles' offense is, the money allocated to the offense is way higher than the defense. Vic Fangio's done a great job. Nick Sirianni's done a terrible job. So there's these dumb groups of people. The first group is the one that thinks, everything is perfect and dandy because all they're doing is winning games. Those people are dumb. Then the people that might be even dumber than that are the people that completely blame this on the quarterback without using any context. The Eagles' offense, for the most part, the past 3 years since Shane Steichen left after 2022, their pass game has been inconsistent. Last year it was inefficient, it was efficient, but it was low volume. And it had some of the same staples and the same things that worked and didn't work. But you saw when it was time to get going, in the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, they kind of let Jalen Hurts throw the ball a little bit more, and they introduced some more different looks. And that gets me to my next point. I see so many people today, specifically these morons on WIP, say that this is the offense that Jalen Hurts wants to run. What evidence of there is that? Because, in fact, there's evidence of this not being the offense he wants to run. Remember after 2023, there was this whole story about how Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts weren't getting along. Do you think that would be because they were on the same page when it comes to the offense? Do you think that Jalen Hurts would say after the NFC Championship game, yeah, the coach let me out of my straitjacket a little bit, implying he let me actually play quarterback, if he was on the same page as the offense, if this was the offense he wanted to run? Do you think after Week 3 against the Los Angeles Rams, post-game interview, to Pam Oliver, he would say, we need to stop playing not to lose, if he was on the same page? Nick Sirianni was the one who said the goal on offense is to not turn the ball over. Not to score points. He said the goal was not turn the ball over. Now, whose philosophy does the offense align itself more with? Jalen Hurts or the coach? It's clearly the coach if you're paying attention. Now, don't get me wrong. All these people online love to be these fake intellectuals and say, Jalen Hurts has his limitations passing. I'm not denying that. But just because you can't thread a ball into double coverage or layer it down the field or throw like Tom Brady does not mean you have to be relegated to throwing the same 3 stale route concepts all game long. I've mentioned this in a previous video. This would never be happening under Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay. And I know what you're saying. You're being ridiculous. Nick Sirianni's won a Super Bowl. You're being ungrateful. I don't care. The point is he has the most stacked roster, the most stacked offense in the NFL. And it's looking like they're barely scraping by teams week after week. It's not about style points, okay? It's about building something that's sustainable in the playoffs. Now, it worked in the playoffs last year, but it almost didn't, okay? The Green Bay game was a terrible game plan. It was the same stale route concepts. That's why they only put up 22 points. The Rams game was a disaster. Jalen played badly. The snow was a factor. But you saw the NFC Championship game against the Commanders and the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl were just completely dominant wins. You won going away. And guess what? Jalen threw an interception in the Chiefs game in the Super Bowl, and it wasn't the end of the world. Why? Because if you try to score points instead of just trying to avoid turnovers, you create a wider margin of error. It is not that complicated. If anything, now that the Eagles have an absolutely dominant defense, that should mean trusting your offense more, not less. Because again, wider margin of error. But Nick Sirianni doesn't understand this. And this is why the offense has absolutely no identity. You know, 1 week we're force feeding the ball to Saquon. The next we're force feeding it to A.J. Brown, which didn't work. He had 7 receptions, but he was averaged about 7 yards per reception. He had like 49 yards. That's not good. He's running the same 3 routes, slants, hitches, curls, nothing. There was at one point a play where Jalen actually made the right play throwing the ball. It was to Grayson or Gassett, our 3rd string tight end. He dropped the ball in a bucket and it was dropped. And you thought, why don't you target one of A.J. Smith or A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith? Well, because they were running 5-yard curl routes and were completely covered up. And that just goes to show that even though he made the right play and it was a low percentage play, a lot of the throws last night were low percentage plays because Nick Sirianni can't scheme up anything easy or not even scheme it up, just call something different. It just goes to show you how bad of a play caller he is when you have this amount of talent, when you have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, who can win their routes and create separation, that they can't because the defense knows what's coming. They're sitting on every hitch route. If it's a 3rd and 4, it's a 4-yard route. If it's 3rd and 5, it's a 5-yard route. If it's 3rd and 12, it's still a 5-yard route. It's just so predictable. And you have all these idiots, like I said, that just blame everything on Hurts. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Jalen Hurts would have to be the most limited quarterback in the history of the NFL to warrant the offense that's being run. I don't want to hear about how he's limited. I don't care. He's not the only quarterback in the league that has his limitations. There's like 3 quarterbacks that don't have a weakness. These other coaches are good enough to scheme around their players' weaknesses. Nick Sirianni isn't. He's clueless. What's more likely, that the quarterback that we've had since 2022 has suddenly just been exposed in his 6th year in the league? When I say since 2022, I mean he's been good since 2022. Obviously, we've had him since 2020. Is it more likely that suddenly Jalen Hurts has been exposed in his 6th year being a starter? Or is it more likely that Nick Sirianni, the doofus, who needs an Italian mobster on the sideline to babysit him, is being exposed for his stale offensive concepts as his players age and decline a bit? The offensive line isn't as good. A.J. Brown has seemingly lost a step, although still an elite receiver in my opinion. What's more likely? And then this just gets to this whole thing with A.J. Brown, this back and forth, this whole, not like any other coach would have just stopped this nonsense with A.J. Brown weeks ago. 1 week he's on Twitter, the next week he's on Instagram, the next week he's on Twitch making comments. How are we still dealing with this? And then it becomes a talking point during Sunday Night Football. The bottom line is this team is the Super Bowl favorites. The defense might even be better than last year with the addition of Jalen Phillips. And now especially since Adoree Jackson is playing well at the cornerback 2 position and isn't a liability. But the offense is just so bad, like so badly coached. If they can just get it to a mediocre level where it's not completely awful, this team would coast to a Super Bowl, I'm telling you. And I said before the season, the one thing I can't stand, I'm not going to be greedy, but the one thing I can't stand is if the offensive coaching is so bad and it gets in the way. And that's what's happening again. I expected the defense to take a step back this year. The offense has gotten worse. It's unacceptable. I'm sick of the offense. I'm sick of the stupid narratives around Jalen Hurts when the fact of the matter is the coaching is the main issue. And I'm not even a Jalen Hurts stan. I think Jalen Hurts is like the 12th, 13th best quarterback in the league. But these people blaming him saying, oh, he's Tim Tebow, that's why the offense stinks. Give me a freaking break. Start putting blame on the coach. I want Derek Gunn, who came out with that report today, go to the Eagles press conference. I want Jeff McClain. I want Zach Berman. I want Bo Wolf, all these guys who cover the team. I want you to look Nick Sirianni in the eye and say, is there any particular reason why 90% of your offense is the same 3 routes? Is this the offense that Jalen wants to run? Ask Jalen that too. I don't care if he gives you some Instagram quotes. Keep asking because we deserve answers. This is insanity to deal with this week after week. So now we got a game against the Cowboys on Sunday in Dallas. If the offense can't get it together against their defense is improved but still horrible, if the offense can't get it together against them, then I don't know what you do. Because there's no more excuses like, they said, the Packers in Green Bay, that's tough. The Lions, that's tough. Even though the Lions were missing like 3 members of their secondary, there's no excuse if you play like shit against the Cowboys. So do something creative. This idea that he can't throw over the middle of the field. Yes, he can. We just saw it in the Giants game when AJ was out. He threw to Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith on crossers over the middle of the field. Why don't they throw to the middle of the field? I don't understand it. Again, this is another thing people say. Jalen can't throw over the middle of the field. You don't want him throwing over the middle of the field on like 3rd and 13, like layering the ball. But you can scheme guys open in the middle of the field. We saw that with Jared Goff. I mean, he was terrible. He was worse than Hurts on Sunday night. But Dan Campbell still drew up easy plays to get completions to his receivers in space. It's not hard. My patience is done with this coach. At this point, even if they win this Super Bowl, I want him fired. Because it's about process over results. Process over results. Once you start doing the correct process, the results will be what we want. And I'm not talking about just wins. I'm talking about dominant wins. Not because of style points, but because that's how you should be performing. And that's what will translate in the playoffs.